let's begin with today, day 37. Take personal inventory. Be the learner you want to see in your children. Take personal inventory over a cup of coffee or tea. What do you wish you had time to learn, do, be? Join a Zumba class? Apply to grad school? Read an art history book? Learn to quilt? Read a novel that is for adults, garden, read more about a historical moment, watch Downton Abbey Season 1 or A&E's Pride and Prejudice. Figure out how to calculate the amount of feed you need for the chickens you will hatch next spring. What can you do related to that aspiration today? Do one thing on your way to that goal. Check out the book or movie. Go to the website and download the application instructions. Visit a quilting store. Stop by the library. Look up fall plants online. Look up math equations. When can you do it? After lunch during nap time? Tonight after your spouse or partner gets home? You might be tempted to work on your interests when you can get some alone time. But how about right now, in front of your kids, ignoring what they are doing for a few minutes? Just dive in and talk as you go. I think I'd like to understand the abolition movement better. It's been so interesting reading about the Civil War with you guys. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to put some books on hold at the library. Or, hey, before we get started today, I want to watch one episode of Sister Wendy's Story of Painting. I'm curious about art history and know nothing about it. You can watch if you want or play with Legos. Then we'll start with your stuff. Don't put off your own learning. Your passion for what you want to know is the fuel of your homeschool. It's not just a model, like you don't do it to demonstrate passion. You do it because you are actually interested. You live it because you need it to thrive, which is what you hope happens to your kids with their interests. You must make time right in front of your children to do what interests you. The only reason kids want to be adults is that adults do cool stuff. So do the cool stuff and don't feel guilty. It's essential to their growth and to your well-being. What will you do, learn, be today? Quote of the day. I love the sentences, the only reason kids want to be adults is because adults do cool stuff. So do the cool stuff. Trudy Klassen. Sustaining thought. Learning in front of your children. Now that's cool. It may stimulate them to learn in front of you. Awesome adulting. Who knows that phrase? It's something I coined last year on Periscope, but I wrote this essay years ago. It's something I've believed in for probably a decade. The notion that your life, your adult life, the one adult life you get, matters. It's not something you push the pause button on when you have children and then you unpause once they all leave the family nest. It's the thing that animates who you are as a human being. And you did not grow up all the way to this amazing moment in adulthood just so you could push a pause button and not be an adult. And I don't mean adult in the responsibility sense. That one you've owned. That's fully on you right now. What I'm talking about is the imagined life you would have in adulthood. You know, the places you could go without showing your driver's license to prove your age, right? The stuff that you could do now because your mother wasn't telling you French isn't a good language to learn. Or the fantasies you had as a child but couldn't afford to pay for, like learning guitar. This is your moment. And while you're in your 30s and your 40s, your brain and your energy level are high. Don't wait. Don't think that you've got to be 55 or 60 before you get to take up kayaking, before you get to explore a subject area or go to school. These are your years as much as they're your children's. And one of the things that happens that I've noticed in my own life and in the lives of the families that I've coached is that when parents, especially the home educator, find a passion, find something they're excited to learn and do, even if it's building a blog from scratch and knowing how to code the HTML or how to put on the pictures so they look beautiful. When you have that mojo going, you have a lot more generosity toward your children. You are not dependent on them to be successful students in order for you to feel good about your life. You have a life, and now you can sit back and observe your children. And you might even recognize the patterns of their own passion because you are naturally experiencing passion yourself, right in the same living room. So if you're all caught up, for example, in every day sneaking some time to work on that quilting project, and you find yourself fantasizing about it, and you're thinking about how you can steal more time from the day, when you see your child trying to steal more time from Minecraft, won't you have a different perspective? Won't it occur to you that maybe that child is having a similar kind of yearning for this creative outlet in the middle of the day when the energy is the strongest, when their imagination is the most catalyzed? Not only that, when you spend time on the areas that are fascinating to you, you will notice the way they ping off of all the things you're trying to teach your kids. It's actually true. You will discover, for example, that you're reading first about Native Americans to your children. Then suddenly you're reading about it for yourself. Then you'll notice there's a news story going on. Then you'll see all of your Facebook friends are participating in that news story through some social media campaign. Then you'll turn on the evening news and lo and behold, they're talking about Standing Rock and the pipeline. And you'll sit with your children and you'll have made all these points of connection in a way you wouldn't have made them if your only goal was to check off the box that says, we read 2 chapters in the book about Native Americans today. See what I mean? Our temptation is to think so often about what our kids should be learning, and we miss the moment where our own interest is piqued and where the powers of adulthood inform and expand what everyone's learning. Not only our children, but also ourselves. And, you know, I mentioned at the top of this broadcast in the comment, today is election day in the United States, and it's felt like we have all just sprinted a marathon without any goo to give us energy. Like we're all limping across the finish line of that experience. And it would be tempting maybe on today to have a regular school day. Why would you? If you have a candidate, get out there and help get out the vote. Or go to the local polling place and show your children democracy in action. Maybe go back and look at the previous years where we've actually elected someone and compare electoral college maps. Maybe talk about how you used to vote and how that's changed and why you're voting this way today. Use today. You're excited about the election or exhausted by it or worried about it or interested in it. So today can be about that. And it's a mixture then of both of you. It's you bringing your energy, the thing that's preoccupying you today, and drawing your children in because, after all, this is democracy in action. And you can talk about things like, what is the peaceful transfer of power? You can talk about how other systems are built. What's the difference between the parliamentary system in England and democracy? I can't even completely tell you. I was in a Facebook group yesterday, a political group I'm in, and a guy said, well, I actually favor the parliamentary system, and I wrote to my congresswoman and told her that I would like her to campaign for this to be a change in our system. And I thought, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what the benefits are of the parliamentary system over the electoral college. That's something now I want to go research. Well, that's the kind of stuff that happened to me all the time when I was homeschooling. And why wouldn't you just ask the question over Cheerios at breakfast, and then while they're playing with Legos, get on your phone and Google, and then start building this idea in your head, and then mention, and you would just be reading along, sipping your coffee, and you're reading, you're scrolling, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know X, and you erupt in speech. And your children are like, whoa, what's mom talking about? And you're not talking to anyone. You're just erupting in speech. And then maybe later you come over and you put on CNN or whatever your choice of news station is, and you get down on the floor and play Legos with your kids. and you're listening in the background, and then you say, I was reading this morning, I didn't even know there were these two very different ways of electing the leader in a democracy. Did you know England and Australia do it like this and we do it like this? And they are going to either be like, oh, that's so interesting, or there goes mom again sharing what she's learning. And you're like fitting Legos on top of each other. And the news is going in the background. Did you know that that's home education? Did you know that? Did you know that counts? You get to do that. You get to live that. That gets to be your homeschool. You could have your kids today print out a map, and you can get a red marker and a blue marker, and you can color in the states as they call them tonight. You could do that. You could have a pool where everybody guesses who's going to get how many electoral college votes. And whoever gets closest, gets $1. I don't know. Gets to use the markers first. Eats a brownie. Picks the game you're going to play tonight. There are so many ways to draw on your adult experience to enrich and expand your life and your homeschool. And I want to give you full permission to do it. Krista says, missing the moment when your own interest is piqued. I always set it aside. Yes, here's a piece of advice I got years ago about my writing. So for those of you who are new to this broadcast, I'm Julie Bogart from Brave Writer. I'm a professional writer, a veteran homeschooling mom of 5. I live in Cincinnati, and Brave Writer is my company. Every day we talk about writing and language arts and homeschooling in this channel. Years ago, when I was growing as a writer, I remember reading this advice. They said, never stop writing if you're a writer, because the writing voice you have at 20 is going to be different at 30, and different again at 40, and different again at 50. And each of those voices is valuable. They represent different versions of your awareness out in the world, and different versions of your optimism, your faith in humanity, the meaning maker that you are. Well, how true of that is our children at 5, 8, 10, 12. That's why I hate the idea that you would sanitize a 5-year-old's writing or an 8-year-old's writing. Leave the spelling mistakes in. Allow the grammar to be gangly and rangy. Allow for the ideas to burst and pop and erupt and not be perfectly edited. So when I'm talking about writing, we are talking about this full sweep of self-expression that spans a lifetime. Well, guess what? That's not just writing. That's true with everything. The interest you had in piano between ages 10 and 15 is different than when you resume it at 30, and when you decide to get symphony tickets when you're 55. Each phase of life offers you treats, things to look forward to. And if you ignore the moments when they present, if I hadn't taken the opportunity to read my husband's whole library of literature that he brought with him to Morocco while we didn't have television, I may never have read those books. There wasn't a better time to do it. The time was when the books were there and I wanted to read. Same with quilting. Same with when I took guitar. In fact, pretty much everything I've done in my adult life has been through opportunity and invitation and simply making the space when that moment occurred. I could not train for a marathon right now, but when I was going through a divorce, a marathon was the greatest gift to my life. I ran and I lengthened the times every day, and I ran 4 marathons in 3 years because that's what was perfect for my life right then. So you need to allow yourself permission to dive in, to take what's being offered, to not push the pause button, to not set it aside in favor of another day. And guess what? If you start living that way, you give your children 2 messages. 1, they can take the moment right now to do the thing that's obsessing them. If you say to them, you're too young for fill in the blank, movie making, going to Kings Island, the amusement park, taking judo lessons. If you say, we'll do that when you're 13, well, what if they're not interested at 13? What if 11 was the time they were interested and you put it off and now they never get to do it? And that piece of who they could have been never gets integrated. And then what if the micro message they take away is, when I want to do something, I should reconsider? Is that what we want them to think? Is that what we want our kids to take away from our lives? The witness of our own lives is, when I'm inclined to do it, I really should reconsider because too many other people need me. And there will be a time in the distant future that's better than right now. So your task, if you choose to accept it, is to take a personal inventory, to take a look at the life you're leading today and allow for your natural curiosity to lead you into a subject matter area interest, a hobby, a day's worth of curiosity. It doesn't have to last 12 years. You don't have to spend money on it. Like I said, today is election day in the United States, and it has been a hard-fought season. It's okay to take the day off. Go to the park. Just recover. Maybe throw a poetry tea time or just a tea time that is a celebration of the end of Facebook fights. And you just tell your kids, you know what? We're not doing anything but celebrating the end of Facebook fights today. Hopefully it's the end. We'll see about tomorrow. But you know what I'm saying? Like, pay attention to your own rhythm, your own passion, your own curiosity, your own hungers, and allow those to find a home in your life and give them some space so that they can take up space in your life, right? I know for me that the more I paid attention to my own curiosity as triggered by the homeschool journey, the more homeschooling became really enjoyable. And the less I took care of my own curiosity while I was in homeschool, the more it became drudgery. Because then there was this teeny part of my brain that was preoccupied with my thoughts, and I was trying to have thoughts while I was supervising something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Has that ever happened to you? You've been in this big conversation online about something unrelated to copywork and dictation or math equations, and your brain is still answering the post, and you're still thinking about it, and you're over here supervising, and your kids are not really engaged, and now you resent them. You resent them for not being engaged because your brain wants to check out and think about that other thing and compose the perfect answer. Have you ever done this? Please tell me I'm not alone. I've totally lived this life. I'm assuming you have too. If you're an active thinker and active online, you're going to have that moment. So here's what I want you to do. Let yourself know that it's okay to have that thought. And even book time for yourself in the day to give it full vent, whether that's during lunch or before the day starts. I remember explaining in my morning routine video that you can watch on YouTube that I used to get up and I'd go to the computer first. I didn't do my duties, make sure everybody was doing homeschool before I got to the computer. I'd just go there and I would give myself a half hour or 45 minutes with my cup of tea, just like this, and I would catch up on the posts in the discussion boards I was interested in, and I would even respond because sometimes I needed a little adult engagement before I started my day. I would listen to my favorite radio show before I started my day. And then I would dive into homeschool. We would do our morning routine and we'd do our work, and I would know that after lunch, I could go back and I could complete my thought, and I will have sort of cogitated and it will come to me. But there is a difference between giving yourself permission and letting it either take over or trying to suppress it. You want some kind of living balance in relationship between that craving to connect with adults, we all have it, it's legit, and doing our homeschool. So find space to allow both to happen and own it. If you're in the middle of a really fiery conversation and it's going to distract you from being a good homeschool mom, you have two choices. One is to scrap the homeschool part and give full permission to yourself to get involved in that because it's your passion that morning. It's the thing animating you. Or to tell yourself, nothing's going to change if I contribute to that conversation. and maybe this amped up feeling is undermining my ability to be present to my kids. I'm going to choose not to get involved today and give full attention to my kids. You get to decide. And guess what? Both are okay. Both are true. Both are going to be choices you make at different moments in time. It's not a science. This is your life. You're an adult. You get to be one. You get to make decisions, choices. You get to manage your time. You get to follow your hunches. You get to have interests. You get to have passions. And the more that you give yourself permission to explore the boundaries of what that looks like, the more you're going to learn how to support your kids in the same. Does that make sense? Sabiha Khan wrote an op-ed at 1 a.m. last night. Found her voice again. Good for you, girl. Good for you. Nadine says, I recently decided that we just need a few hours in the morning and start lessons in the afternoon, and it's been so great. Oh my gosh, good for you. That's fabulous. I remember when I discovered that Liam did better with writing in the evening. After his dad was home, we had done homeschool all day, the kids were in the living room playing or watching TV. He and I could go to a table in a different room, and in the evening when it was just the two of us, he felt all the weight of my attention, which he loves. And I was able to give him my full focus, and we could do writing. And if I tried the same steps and processes at 10 in the morning, he couldn't do it. So experiment. That's fabulous. Heather says, I taught myself to knit just 2 weeks ago after years of wanting to learn. I finally just decided to do it, and I did. My first scarf is almost complete. That is what I'm talking about. That is fabulous. And you know what's funny? I took up knitting years ago. Same reason. And Noah asked for knitting needles and yarn for Christmas, my oldest son. And then we all became scarf knitters. And I discovered I hated dropping and adding stitches. So the only thing I know how to knit is scarves. And guess what? That's all I ever wanted to know. Because what I liked about knitting was the activity while I was watching TV. So that was why I wanted to knit. I just wanted something to do with my hands. I love the look of the yarn. I don't even like the look of the scarf. I just like how it looks when I knit it. I gave myself permission to knit for the pure pleasure of the activity. For me, it had nothing to do with the resulting scarf. How crazy! But it was perfect. And even today, when I go in a store that has yarn and knitting needles, I want to do it again. I'm like, I love the feel of the wooden needles, and I love just picking a color because the color is beautiful, not because it coordinates. I do nothing practical. I care not at all about the practical value of the result of knitting. I literally just enjoy the activity and increasing my speed. Oh my gosh. You can do that too. Like, take off all of the rules about what it means to be a good mother or a good home educator and allow yourself to be immersed in the activity of learning and allow yourself to discover who you are in relation to what you're learning. Okay? One really cool thing that happened last year is Johanna, my second child, who's 27, she's home now for a few months, I'm so lucky. She lived all over South America. And while she was there, her goal was to learn Spanish. But what she discovered while she was there is that she became a student of salsa and surfing. And so we joke, it's like the big three, Spanish, salsa, and surfing. And she was working, for Brave Writer, doing her job during the day. But her chief goal in life for a whole year, can you imagine having a whole year where your goal is to get good at salsa, to learn to surf, and to speak Spanish fluently? Now that's a homeschooled kid. That's someone who's gotten permission all the way on the inside. She put off grad school for 2 years. She's going back to live abroad again, starting in January. Because there is something about inside of her, she has a permission giver. She has a permission giver living inside of her. And she's figuring out, who am I? How am I going to function in the adult world? Who do I want to be? What experiences do I want to have? And she's valuing things that are non-traditional. Like we say when you're in your 20s, what should you do? Go to grad school, get a job, or get married and have children, or find your life partner, right? Hunker down, find a place, do your right thing. And she's over there like, it'd be really fun to do salsa. I want to find out what it's like to hang out in a surfing community, you know? She now wants to learn yoga, become a yoga practitioner. Like, think about all of that. Think about all of that growth, that ability to make those choices. I know, I am so into what she's living, but that's just 1 out of my 5. They're all doing different things. Like all my peer group from homeschool and college have children who've gotten married and are having kids. And a lot of them have jobs and some of them don't. And I have no grandchildren. And I have no kids who are meaningfully near getting married or starting that life. But what we do have in our 5 kids is this awareness that there's so much to do in the world that they get to be a part of. Like that's the feeling they have when they come back out of this homeschool environment is, oh, I can do stuff because I'm an adult and adults are awesome and they can do amazing things. And I don't even need anyone's permission. I can just go do them. That was my goal. And I'm really excited to see the fruit of that goal showing up in the lives of my kids. Isn't that amazing? They all think they can live other places in the world. They all think they don't have to get married until whenever they finally are ready. They all think it's okay to do grad school or not do grad school. Like, that's amazing to me. They've studied abroad. They've gotten scholarships. They're still figuring it out. And on the menu of options is salsa. Don't you hear what I'm saying? I think it's so awesome. It's so wonderful, right? On the menu of options is salsa and social work, both, because that's probably where she'll end up. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So guess what? You can have visions and dreams and plans and experiences too. You can start knitting right now. I was explaining to my kids last night, once I'm done paying for college, I want to go live somewhere else for a month or 2 at a time. I have a portable life. I could just go live in Paris for a month if I wanted to and still run Brave Writer, right? Like, life isn't over. I only get one. You only get one. Your whole life is not about making sure your kids turn out. It's making sure you turn out. And if they see that you care about that, then they know they're supposed to care about that for themselves. So make sure you turn out. Have an awesome life. Be an amazing adult. You got it? And let me just put a big parentheses around this. The most amazing journey of my entire life is pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, and home educating. Still, favorite things. Favorite things. So happy I did it 5 times. So happy I did it 5 times. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, that's the best part of being a human being. I loved it. Still love it. All about it. Can't wait for them to all trundle into my house in December and live here for a couple of weeks. Like, I'm all about it. This is not a competition between mothering and adulting. This is living a full adult life that embraces all of who you are as best you can, given the limits of your current circumstances. Okay? So, create a big life. Take personal inventory today. If you are an American, I just want to add a little admonishment at the end of this message before the election is finished, because we don't know who won. No matter who you are, thank you for caring so much that you had passionate arguments with people you love, that you became educated about the issues, that you chose to vote or not vote based on your conscience, that you are a member of a democracy who wants the best for America. I know you do, and so do I. And I just want to extend my hand across whatever aisle, either you're on my aisle or you're across the aisle, and let you know that I value your participation in our democracy, and I thank you for it. And no matter who wins, my prayer, wish, and hope will be for that president to be utterly successful in creating the kind of country we all live for, the imperfect union that Abraham Lincoln asked us to create together. that slowly growing city on a hill. All the good rhetoric, all the good words. All right? Okay. Thanks. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in today. We will meet back here again tomorrow at 8 in the morning, unless, of course, there's a tie, in which case I will be glued to the television like I was in 2000. So anyway, in the meantime, have a fabulous day. And I will see you, if you're in the Alliance, I will see you in the Alliance tomorrow for our teleconference. Not too late to sign up if you want to get in on that discussion about emotions and learning. I posted an audio lecture about that subject yesterday, so you can go listen to that. We've already got some good conversations started around that, so feel free to join. If you're already in, I'll see you tomorrow night and tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody.